Welcome once again to a daily devotional, online devotion from Lutheran Church of the Resurrection. It's good to be with you today. So we continue to wait in our waiting room series. And this last week in my sermon, I asked the question about how we could potentially partner more effectively with God in our own development. And I also talked about looking back at our lives with life experience and how I think retrospectively we can often see where God was at work in our lives, preparing us for certain things that we may have been waiting for. Sometimes things we didn't even know we were waiting for. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. I had this experience in my mid to late 20s, where I had gone through a series of challenges with relationships and was feeling betrayed and just all kinds of challenges. And just during that time, I felt so alone, so isolated, and challenged in so many different relationships. And as I look back at that time, I think that was a time that God used to really teach me to get in touch with who I was as an individual, who I was as God's creation, and learned a lot of lessons about life. But fundamentally, what God was teaching me was to really know myself, to really love myself, who I was, and to trust in that strength of God's creation in me. And as I look back at that particular lesson, that lesson seemed to prepare me rather well, although I'm not sure I put it together at the time, but I struggled in my pursuit of ministry and my call. I struggled a fair amount and went back and forth a little bit, debating within myself and in action too. I mean, I went to seminary for 2 years and then withdrew for 3 years, went back after that time, and there were all kinds of these vacillations in my call and determining my call process. But one of the things that I fundamentally, a decision I reached, or a point that I reached, was a recognition. I think what I was seeing in front of me as examples of what a Lutheran pastor was, I was thinking I had to change who I was in order to be that. And so in my pursuit of my call, I felt challenged in not being able to be who I was and still be a Lutheran pastor. And yet the fundamental resolution that I came to, or the determination that I came to, that freed me to pursue ministry, was that I had to be myself. And I was prepared for who I was, and having learned a lot about myself in that earlier time in life. And when I fundamentally came into touch with the fact that God was calling me to uniquely bring my gifts, who I was, to ministries, and only I could bring those gifts to ministry. And God had prepared me for that in those lessons earlier on in life that led me to this understanding that really ultimately freed me of the burdens of the challenges of having to change who I was in order to be something I wasn't, but rather to live into the fullness of my identity and add to that identity a called minister, a called Lutheran pastor. And I just found that to be one of those experiences in life that retrospectively we look at in terms of how God is working in our lives. And I firmly believe that God is working in our lives right now, in your life right now, to prepare you for something. We may not see it all that clearly, but ways in which we can partner with God is through prayer and through trust. Especially as we look back at certain experiences in our life, we recognize those connections, and that frees us to understand at the very least that God is with us, that God is leading us with intent and purpose behind our lessons that we learn, so that we can more fully live into our identity as children of God. I firmly believe that's true for you. I firmly believe it's true for me, and I don't know what's on the horizon, but we are in process. And so may we trust that God God knows, and that God will teach us what we need to learn in order to be more fully connected to God in relationship and more fully connected to our world around us, living out our calling as children of God. Hope you have a great day. See you soon.